Hi, Bruce here. Thank you for dropping in. Welcome to my channel. Talking about a couple things. I talk about a thing. You know what? A thing is this. This is really cool. I think it is. Anyway, I don't know if I can get it. There we go. It's you go to Staples and you get this aluminum box or metal box, and you can fill it up with 24 crayons, and it costs $4. It's fantastic. I think if you like crayons, you like kids, why not? Heck, I don't get, I'm not sponsored by Staples or Crayola, because no one in their right mind would sponsor this. There you go. Anyway, so talking about electrical vehicle charging and progress. So here we have these ones. These are in a big Canadian city in Ontario. And they're the Ivy network, and they're a pretty new player in the world of charging. Now, a lot of times people talk about electric vehicles and charging, and that's all well and good, and everybody always says Tesla, 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 supercharger, 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 and the fact of the matter is that Teslas are awesome and the supercharging network is great. Okay, make no mistake, it's great. Now, an aside is, I like to point out that it's no longer like a deciding factor. There's lots and lots and lots of charging. And the CCS charging network, which CCS, I think it stands for Combined Charging System or something like that, what the letters stand for, I'm not sure, it doesn't matter. But the CCS network is vast. And also, the oldest charging network in North America is a CCS network. Now, the CCS is the type of plug, and but there's a whole bunch of different players, and you know, you can actually, if you own a small business and you wanted to invest, you could buy a CCS charger similar to this one and have it installed at your business, and this gives about 50 kilowatts, which is a fairly high charging rate, but it's not the highest, but it's okay. Now, what I'm saying is that the oldest charging network in North America is a CCS network, and it's a Circuit Electrique in Quebec, because the province of Quebec has gotten way out in front of the electrification of our society. Thank you very much. And they began installing these chargers a long time ago. So it's quite normal to pull up to charge in Quebec, and the charger that you're plugging into your car may be 8 years old or 9 years old, and that 8 or 9 year old charger has been sitting there waiting for someone to use it for 8 or 9 years, and it has this property that when you plug it in, it simply works. Okay, now I always say that the most reliable network is the oldest network. All right, because they've had a lot of time. There's trucks moving around here. If it's mucking with the sound, I don't know. They've had a lot of time to work through the bugs and to do iterations of engineering. Like if you're going to build something, we were building something, and someone summed it up succinctly. He said, well, what you do is you build it, you fix it, 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 you find mistakes and you correct them. That's how success is achieved with an iterative process. It's normal. So the Quebec system, they've had 9 or 10 years really of design iteration, or even more, where the small problems that occur have been eked out. So now when you go and you plug in your car to Quebec Circuit Electrique CCS plug, you're basically 99.99999% certain that it's just going to work. Okay, period. And people that own Tesla say the same thing in the supercharging network, although I would suggest that the Tesla supercharging network is the second most reliable network in North America. And it is also not as vast as a CCS network. If you look at the geographic penetration and the geographic extent of the CCS network, it goes beyond what the supercharging network does, really, although times are a-changing and there's new chargers being built all the time, thankfully, and installed. It's great. However, if you want to drive like the Gaspé Peninsula there's no Tesla chargers. If you want to drive, Newfoundland does not have superchargers, and a whole bunch of places don't have them. Now, if you happen to be in, the Bay Area of California, there's lots of chargers, period. Anyway, now, these are the IV chargers. They were funded actually by, well, Ivy and the federal government contributed significantly, and then the provincial government in Ontario made an announcement about this as progress. And there you go. Now, they're the newest. Now, I said that the Circuit Electrique are the oldest and the most reliable. So these are the newest, and they're not at the level of reliability that really Ivy or anyone would like. Now, I said designing things, building things is an iterative process. You build it, you identify problems, you fix it. So Ivy has identified problems, and they're working through to correct those problems. Now, and because these things are, although they're simple and complicated. Because the first rule, or the first job of these devices is to not injure anyone. So there's a lot of internal sensors and checks to make sure that when you grab onto the handle that nothing bad is going to happen to you or your car, and that's job one. And job two, which is commensurate with job one, but really job two is to supply the charging. So anyway, that's this on the Ivy system. Now, on the side is something else that's going on around here is another large electric vehicle project, and that large electric vehicle project is Metrolinx, and they're building a transit line across and through Toronto. Okay. And they started construction in 2010, which is effectively 13 years ago, and it doesn't work at this exact moment. You can't ride on it. There you go. And there's a bit of a hubbub about that, but the fact is that it's the same idea. It's a big job, so there's a plan. And at the onset, the project plan was, let's just say it was incepted by the brother of the Premier of Ontario, who was the Mayor of Toronto at that time, and he said, subways, subways, subways. So what happened was, okay, we're going to take this crosstown line in Eglinton, and we're going to bury it and make it kind of into a subway. So that adds complexity and challenges, and I always say that when it comes to construction, there is nothing more expensive than a hole. Okay, so if you're building a house and you're surprised at the cost of the foundation and the basement, that's a very, very expensive component. But with respect to this Eglinton crosstown thing, I'm gonna try to do a kind of an illustrative point here. Okay, now if you're working on your house or you have some aspirations, so what you want is you're going to have a little this is that circle right there. I'm going to call that circle your aspiration. This is the circle of aspiration. This is what you want to have. Now, let's talk about what you can have, your resource. So if you're talking about your own life or a business, remember, if you go back in my videos, I talked about there's individuals, there's firms, and there's government in our economy and in our society. So I didn't know if I was recording, but I'm not that great at this, okay? Bear with me, but remember I say it's an iterative process. We're all trying to learn, me too. Okay, so these three entities that exist in our society. One of them is the individual and the firm and the business. Okay, so your circle of aspiration. Now, if you are an individual or you are a business, your resources ideally would encapsulate your aspiration. Okay, your resources. Okay, resources. It could be your money resource. It could be your willingness to do some labor. It could be lots of things. I mean, ages and ages ago, I mean, if someone wanted to have lots of resources, what they did was they had lots of children. Okay, that's what you want to do if you are a private person, an individual, or if you're a business. You want to keep your resources kind of exceed your aspirations by a bit. And if you find that your aspirations are growing outside your resources, well, you have to figure out a way to get more resources. Okay, that's an important entity. Now, the government, that rule does not apply. Okay, ideally, the government will have government has resource. Okay, government has resource, and we talked before about this graph here called the production possibility curve or frontier. This is the production possibility curve and frontier, and it's this idea of what do we have and what do we know and what can we can do. And then we have the resources, and that is always expanding. Now, if you're the government, your objective is to maximize the well-being of everyone. So a consideration that you can't get hung up on too much is this idea of budget, resource, and in an accounting sense. Okay, so if you're the government, what you want to do is you want to have lofty ambitions. You want to have big goals. Your aspirational frontier, this is the resources, your aspiration should be way the heck out here. Lots of aspiration. Because when you embark on the endeavor, and the endeavor could be educating the populace, providing the populace with health care, providing the populace with protection of private property, which is a very important role in society. It's one of the ways that this idea of the maximization of well-being occurs. When you embark on that, you can't say, hey, wait a second, we really don't have enough. Now, what happens is the people in government aren't necessarily economic theorists, and so there's an oscillation, and sometimes they say, wait, we can't have enough. But those decisions are impeding decisions. They impair the capacity of society to advance and to grow. Okay. Now, remember I talked before about the concept of criteria, like this notion, and you don't want to have kind of you know, it's not a good idea to burn down the rainforest, right? That's just, you know, in this pursuit of growth. You look at the rainforest and you can say, well, there's a resource. It's a bunch of trees. Well, one thing we can do with trees is burn them. Well, there's other things that you can do with a rainforest, and one of them is let it be a rainforest, and that's key. Okay, but this thing and this idea of budget, of timing, of everything. Now, so there's a bit of a kerfuffle about this crosstown rail project, because it's at, right now, let's just say it's 95% complete by some metric, and somewhere, in some room with some person, there's a thing called the project plan, and there's a to-do list. Okay, that to-do list is going to have a lot of items on it, and then a lot of these items are going to have check marks, and they're going to have dates, you know, projected dates, and all this stuff. That's the project plan. The people that are building this crosstown endeavor, they're highly competent people. The plan is a well thought out plan. I mean, once the idea was made that we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to bury it and we're going to move all kinds of people, there you go. Now, the fact that it's taken longer than was originally thought 13 years ago, and the fact that it's taken more resources to achieve it than it was originally thought 13 years ago, that should come as a surprise to no one at all. And this notion that we're going to have an inquiry and examine the roots of these cost overruns and this delay with a goal towards having it never happen again, well, that's a good idea if you want to expand your production possibility curve in the direction of lawyers and people that are binding reports. That's a good idea. But really, in the history of humanity, things take longer. Okay? Things take longer. It just happens. Okay? And saying that it just happens might seem like glib and hand waving and whatever, but it's true. Now, sometimes things just happen, and they happen within the original time frame and within the original budget and all that. But really, that is an exception. It is not the rule. Okay, if you take another edifice that exists here in Canada's largest city, formerly known as the Sky Dome, now I think it's called the Rogers Centre. Well, they're building this thing, okay, years ago, and in 1985 or something they began, and it's I'm going to say it's like 60 or 70% complete, and then someone came up with the bright idea and said, hey, we got this big thing, well, let's make a hotel in it. Oh, well, that was a total left field occurrence that happened 3 or 4 years into the construction project and threw a major wrench in the gears and caused delays, and they just, let's throw more resources and money at it. And remember, this was kind of not government in the sense that I've been talking about government. This is private and a different kind of government. But anyway, there you go. So things happen, delays occur. Remember, iterative process. We're gonna build it, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna design it, we're gonna identify problems, we're gonna fix the problems, we're gonna move forward, and then in a certain amount of time, and that time's coming fairly quickly, lo and behold, magical, it's just going to work. That happens all the time. Now, I can make a big long speech about another major municipal transportation project that's happening in Canada that's similar, but there's differences, and I'll save that for another time. I think this has gone on too long. Meanwhile, look, we have these charging. Okay, you can charge up your electric vehicle at a high-speed DC thing, and if you'll notice, there's no one here. Okay, there's no one here because this particular province lags in EV adoption because of some decisions that were made politically, and some leaders weren't quite on board with this idea of electrification. But, well, you know, time changes minds, and the good ideas have a way of rising to the surface, and now here we are. But an aside though, is most people that have electric vehicles in cities, you charge at your house. That's how it happens mostly, and you charge other places. But there you go. So here's a resource. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ivy, and I don't get nothing from them. And but the important thing is that this exists and that it works, and that there's more and more of them coming, because there's certainly more and more electric vehicles. Anyway, thank you very much. My name's Bruce. If you could hit the like button and subscribe, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Bye.